to this episode of Language Matters. Today we are talking about Hausa. So I have with me Osman. He's a Hausa teacher and he is originally from Niger. Sanu. Osman. And I also have Hawa, who's also a native speaker of Hausa, and she is also from Niger. Sanu. So Hausa is not a commonly known language. A lot of people probably don't know much about it. So let's start kind of from the beginning. Can you tell us about where do Hausa speakers originate from?
Hausa speakers, we have Hausa speakers northern Nigeria and also southern Niger. And among Hausa people, we have ethnic group, Hausa is ethnic group, and we have also sub-ethnic group in Hausa. And I'm going to let Hawa talk about.
Okay, when we speak about Hausa, we have the language which connect us. And then from there, we have also the people. When you say Hausa, so you have both Hausa speaker who are Hausa people. As you ask your question, yes, Hausa is spoken in the northern part of Nigeria and also in Niger and in many other countries like Cameroon, like Ghana, Senegal. You can find people speaking Hausa because Hausa people have moved from one part to other.
Osman mentioned there were two subgroups. What are the two subgroups?
More than two subgroups in Hausa, and the differentiation among those subgroups is just the accent. How they speak in this area is not the same. It can be the same word, but different accent in the other area.
I see. And maybe a few different words?
A few different words are Dayawa, for example, which is a lot. In the Koni region, which is in Niger, they say Dawaya.
That sounds different.
Yeah, for the regular Hausa or standard Hausa is Dayawa.
I see.
Dayawa.
I see. If I'm from Senegal and I'm a ethnically Hausa or I'm a Hausa speaker, you can understand me if you're from Niger.
Exactly.
Or from Cameroon.
I can understand you unless you don't speak, because some Hausa is mixed with when they are in the community. For example, in Nigeria, someone from Nigeria, when he speaks Hausa, he throws some English words.
Oh, I see. Because the official language of Nigeria is English.
Exactly.
Whereas the other countries are mostly French, correct?
And also I want to add something. When you take Hausa, for example, in Niger, you have Hausa in a certain region. And those Hausa with another group ethnic. Let's say when a Fulan, who is another group, is speaking Hausa, you can say there is Hausa from Fulan. He speaks Hausa, but his base is Fulan. So you can have...
So his ethnicity is Fulani.
But he speaks Hausa.
I see.
So as Usman explained, each group, when you talk, sometimes you have the influence
different accents.
Of the place where you are, which means the accent is a little bit different, but we always can speak and understand each other.
So there is one standard.
Yes.
Yeah. There is a standard Hausa, for example. I can give you another example. When I was speaking standard Hausa, like Daki, which is room, house, and I moved to another region, and they say, Bako Shugozuntu. Hey, guest, come inside. Or come in the room. And I turn around, I say, what's Zuntu? And then they show me. They point in the room, they say, this is Zuntu. I say, Daki. That's how I used to Daki.
I see.
In Hausa of Niger, for example, when you want to say hula is the cover, the top, which men wear in his head.
I see.
You say hula. But in Nigeria, they will say fulla. You know it is the same, but the pronunciation is a little bit different.
I see.
And Hausa in Niger will have sometimes influence of the language which is spoken as a French. As Hausa in Nigeria also, they use sometimes some word, like they say lorry.
From the English
word, yeah. So
or truck in American English.
Truck,
yeah. And also another word that is common for the Hausa people is HW, which give the sound hwa. Now for the standard Hausa, it's become F. For example, when I say rumfa, which is shade, for the people, they can say rumhwa. When you are in Niger or some areas, they say rumhwa. But the standard Hausa say rumfa, which is shade.
So we're talking a little bit about influence from other languages. So maybe from a different ethnic group's language, it gets influenced. Maybe from French, English, Arabic. Are there any kind of other interesting words that you don't have words for that maybe you use English instead? You mentioned lorry, but are there a lot of them?
There is so many words that Hausa took from other languages. For example, computer. Hausa, they say computer. And
Makes sense.
they also have like tires. They say tire.
Okay.
They have a bucket. They say bokichi.
Oh, what is it?
Bokichi. A bucket.
Oh, a bucket.
They say bokichi. And if you want to order, like I order a book from Amazon, they say, na yi order littafi daga Amazon. Order.
And Amazon.
Amazon. Yawa.
Also, like film, sensitive film. They
I see.
choose the same word, but they pronounce it according to the place they are. But I can say that for the pronunciation in all Hausa, when you say tse, tse, tsinsu is bird. So in Nigeria, they will say tsunsu. In Nigeria, they will say tsunsu. Tsintia is the broom. They will say tsintia.
They also, that's the TS sound.
So for English speakers, what is one of the hardest things
That's
for us to do in the language?
Exactly. That's the TS sound, which is se. You squeeze your teeth and
Push your tongue.
push your tongue. Se. Is TS. Like sada, which is expensive. Sala, which is a millet cake.
Tsia, which is poverty.
Is that the only sound, or there are a
There
couple
is
other-
another sound like the B form. Is B with what we used to call funky B, with some stuff on head. Like we can say bera.
Oh,
And
sure.
someone who is not a native speaker, he's going to say bera.
Bera.
I can hardly hear the difference.
Yeah,
Is it kind
bera.
it has kind of a D sound, like
B
Bera.
sound is bera.
Bera.
Yeah.
Era.
It's
get
right.
it. Yeah.
Oh, I can't
Bera.
hear the difference,
Yeah.
but I feel the difference when I say.
Osho.
I see.
Bera, which is rat.
Okay.
But when I say bargo, you see the difference. This is bargo, which is blanket.
So do you still use this funky B, or the funky B is gone?
Now we still use it.
It looks like has an accent mark.
Accent. It's like just you the top part, pull it over front like a semicircle.
I see.
That's the same.
I'll have to Google it. So
Yeah.
I can look at
You
it.
have the
Everybody
K.
out there has to Google it. who's
Yeah.
listening.
The K also. Ko is
Yeah.
the
Back here, like
K, but it is from the throat. Ko.
It's
Oh.
the same like funky
B,
B,
you have a funky
but
K.
that's you have funky K. We have funky D.
D.
Kama da,
Ah.
which is sun.
Oh,
You
it's
have
sort
to-
of like a guttural, like
Yeah.
ah.
da.
Oi.
Okay. So funky G, funky B, funky K.
We have funky B, funky K, funky D, and
Oh,
that's
no
it.
funky G. I was
No,
wrong. Just
no.
the three funky ones.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's it. D,
Okay.
B, D, K.
Those pronunciation pieces are pretty difficult, but what sort of linguistically or grammar, what do you find that students really struggle with?
Gender.
Oh, mostly gender.
Most of gender, and our gender is changed. We have what we call like some pronoun that we can put at the end, but the structure is the same. We have subject, verb, object plus extension. For example, na ci shinkafa da wake jiya. I ate rice and beans yesterday.
So similar to
Yeah.
English and French.
Exactly.
Yes.
Hawa ta tafi aiki DLS. Hawa went to work at DLS.
But you can now turn it. Aiki ta tafi. DLS. So you won't say anymore Hawa ta tafi aiki. But you can start with the verb and say work she went to DLS.
Is that for emphasis?
Yes, you can say it like as he explained. You say the subject, you say the verb, and then the pronoun. But you can also say, you can turn it. It depends how you want to speak it.
So it's more flexible
It's more flexible.
than we have in English and I think
Yeah.
in your other language, which is
In
we
Hau-
both are French speakers, correct?
In Hausa, you can focus on something that you want to know about it.
So if you want to emphasize
Exactly.
the work, but in your other example, if you want to emphasize rice and beans, you
Yeah.
say rice and beans first. I ate.
Yeah. That's
but the standard is kind of subject, verb, object, and then
extension.
Yeah, the gender is really something which is difficult when you have a student in the first time until they start to catching it and understanding it.
So how many genders do you have?
We have a masculine, we have feminine.
Neutral?
Neutral, we have neutral,
Neutral,
and
yeah.
that's the one that I want to talk about because that's the most difficult for a non-native speaker.
Well, hello again. We actually had to take a long break because we had some technical difficulties in the middle of our last recording, but now we're back and our microphones work. We did lose Hawa because she had to leave for the day, but we do have Osman still with us. And we also are fortunate to have a student of Hausa, Ty. He's also here with us. Hi, Ty.
Hello, it's good to be here.
So we'll get a good student perspective on this whole thing. When we had our issue, we were talking about the genders. And we talked about the masculine and feminine. And then you mentioned there's kind of a neutral, maybe a gender, maybe just a neutral something.
In Hausa, as I said, we have gender, female and male, and we have neutral. In English, for English people, I can say it means it or one, do something. And in Hausa, the past tense is a, ang, and present tense is ana. For example, ana ruwa, it's rain. I don't know what my student Tai think about that.
So as I was kind of figuring out how this whole concept works, it's a really neat concept. We could definitely bring it over into English and it would work well. I think it's most likely, it's closest to saying someone did this. We don't know who. It could be 100 people, it could be one person, but it's literally just someone did something. As a translator, you have a lot of freedom in how you're going to translate that.
Oh, so it's open to interpretation.
Yes.
Because it's more like making it a passive.
It's a passive.
Kind
passive
of,
is how you usually translate it, but sometimes that's a little clunky. So you can say
see.
they did it or someone did it.
But whatever it is, is it an attachment to a noun, or what does it attach to? So in gender, you have masculine words and feminine words. You also have neutral words.
It's in verbs. It's how you attach to verbs. So
I see.
The verbs don't change much in Hausa. We don't conjugate our verbs much in English. They conjugate them even less in Hausa. They pretty much just put an identifier before the verb to tell you who's doing it, whether it was one person, one man, or one woman, or a group of people. And then they use this one for we don't know who it was.
So in Hausa, like French, though, you also have feminine nouns and feminine adjectives. Mm-hmm. And masculine nouns and masculine adjectives.
Exactly.
Right, you have to conjugate that way. But there's no neutral noun or adjective or adverb, I guess. No.
There's no, as he said, that this that we think that is neutral or it in English can be related to a group.
I see. So it's kind of an ambiguous word. Oh, that gives you a lot of freedom, and you can relax when you
when you are
use it.
using it. Especially during translation, it's up to you how you see the context that it's used. Yeah. That if it's a group or something natural.
Yes, that's interesting. Well, since we didn't hear much from Thai before, is there anything else in the language that you find particularly
So the sounds are definitely difficult, both in hearing them and producing them. It's also the tones are just. They're a nightmare, I should say.
Is it a tonal language?
It's a tonal language.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And I'm used to Arabic, where everything's very explicit, and how it's written is how it's spelled. And Hausa used to use the Arabic alphabet, but they've switched to the English, and the English doesn't tell you what the tones are.
I see.
And so a lot of times you have to memorize it and you have to guess.
But the tones, if you have a different tone on a word, it's a different word. Is that right?
It's different word. It can be the same word with intonation.
With a different tone. Can you give us an example of two words?
Karia.
I can't hear the tone.
Karia is like a female dog. Karia is that break it.
Could you hear the difference when he said it?
I can.
Yeah.
But even as far along as I am now, I would have to go with context to remember which one was which.
Okay.
Karia tana habshi. The dog female is bargain. Karia tana habshi. kai kaka karya mini computer.
Yeah, so like, don't lie to me. Don't break my computer.
So how many tones are there? So I think when we were talking about Chinese, we had 5 different tones. How many tones on one sound are there?
For Hausa, to know the towns is just you add the vowel. They have what they call small tongue and long tongue. And for the long tongue, it's like kara, 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 kara.
I see. So it's really just 2. It's short and long.
Short and long.
Okay,
That's the
okay.
two.
It's very similar to Chinese in a lot of ways, though. I know when I was first listening to things, my wife would come in and she'd say, "Are you listening to Chinese right now?" A lot of the music I think sounds Chinese. If I'm just hearing Usman listen to music, I say, "Is that Chinese music that you're listening to?" A lot of their music or instruments sound like that.
Because we have different kind of instrument.
What's the most popular instrument?
The most popular instrument is the drum. They call it kalangu. It's just a drum that you
Yeah, it's the one you hold under
Yeah.
your arm, kind of like a bongo kind of thing.
They have different kind of. They have kind of bongo, and they have this one that we have. You have to have a stick.
So is there anything else that you guys...
Beside that, what you say, the funky with apostrophe, different sound for which is kind of difficult for a non-native speaker to make a difference. Because, for example, the ka, we have ka, which is dry, and you have the one on your, let's say, ka.
Mm-hmm. Like the back of the throat.
The back,
Ka.
ato, which is a huge person. Ato, kaka.
What I've also heard from you and from sitting in on your class, also the number of idiomatic expressions and proverbs and these kinds of things as they infiltrate the language, maybe even at a lower level, they infiltrate much more than in English at the same level. Did you have a hard time with that?
The number of idioms is mind-boggling. It's a very verbal culture. They don't focus on the writing aspect of it. What they focus on is how they speak back and forth. They make up jokes, they make up little sayings, and it's very. I mean, they've spent a lifetime learning all these little sayings, and it's for almost everything. They have one.
Osman, do you have a favorite or the most fun one?
My favorite is life is chicken.
A chicken's ass is how
Chicken
you told
ass.
me
Yeah,
before.
that's what I said. Chicken
Life
ass,
is like a
life
chicken's ass.
Yeah, because chicken ass can give you eggs and it can give you shit. That's how most of Hausa people, how they raise their kids, you have to understand that to live. Suna cewa duniya ta kashin kaza, yau kwai gobe tutu.
Eggs or poop.
Poop. Yawa.
Okay, that's a good one. I might translate that into English and just start using it applied to everybody's life.
There is another one that they say when they raise us, they always taught us how to have patience. Mai haƙuri yakan dafa dutse ya sha romansa. Someone who has patience can cook a rock and drink the soup.
Can cook a
Rock.
Oh, a rock and
yeah.
make soup.
Make soup.
Make soup from a rock.
No, make soup.
That's good. I hadn't heard that one before. That's
Yeah.
good.
Mai haƙuri yakan dafa dutse ya sha roman shi.
What does it mean? You need to be.
You have to be patient for everything.
Oh, okay. So if you can cook rocks, it takes a long time to get anything from it.
I'd say if you're patient, you can get anything you need.
Okay, that makes sense.
Exactly.
Do you have some favorite ones?
I can't produce them. I'm just trying to.
You can just say them in English.
Recognize them when I see them. I can't. No, I can't remember any.
You can remember about the body language. Sometimes outside people use body language. Farin ciki, kana farin cikin.
Oh, everything is very descriptive of the body. As far as farin ciki is, I'm happy, but I guess I'm white-bodied. I'm white inside.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of how we'll say, I'm feeling dark today. It's
Oh.
a dark mood. So
Bakin ciki.
So you use white instead of dark?
dark, yes.
Okay.
So
So
if you say I'm lighthearted, I guess. I'm in a light mood is what they say, except it's white. It's the word white. If I'm in a dark mood, I'm a dark body. I'm upset right now.
I see.
Kuma ce wannan yana dogon hannu. It means
Oh, I like that's very similar. Some of them are similar to ours. So I have a long arm. I like to think of the long arm of the law reaches out to touch you.
So if you have a long arm, what does it mean?
You're influential.
you can have connection.
Okay. My English isn't good enough. I never thought about the long arm of the law. So can you tell us how to say thank you in Hausa?
Nagode.
Nagode, Osman.
Oh, barka.
Nagode, Tai.
Barka.
Thank you guys very much for your time. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Language Matters. To our listeners, you can continue the conversation by tweeting us at DiplomaticLS, or you can find us on Facebook by searching for Diplomatic Language Services.